네, 안녕하십니까. 다시
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm greeting you once again. I am Ju Sul, announcer who will be emceeing today's event. Welcome to 2022 Global ICT R&D Collaborative Conference, which is hosted by Ministry of Science and ICT and hosted by IITP, organized by IITP. We're going to now begin the opening ceremony of GRRC. We're now going to welcome President Song Bae-jeon of IITP for his welcoming remarks. Yes, good afternoon. I am President Song Bae-jeon of IITP. Welcome to the GRRC, which is 7th at this year. I would like to welcome all of you to this great conference. It's a great opportunity to understand the current status of the R&D and share achievements of the international joint research outcome in the field of ICT. First of all, I would like to thank you for being here for the successful opening of GRRC. And I would like to also express my gratitude to GDTI of Spain for kickstarting today's conference with this special session. My special and sincere appreciation goes to Your Excellency, Spanish Ambassador to Korea, Guillermo Kirkpatrick de la Vega, for your presence. I would like to also extend the warmest welcome and gratitude to everyone joining us virtually today, and all the researchers and specialists from research organizations from home and abroad. International joint research is a great means to facilitate technological exchange and to spark and propagate innovation. Through international joint research, we could collaborate with each other and respond together to global issues such as digital transformation and carbon neutrality. Through international joint research, we have made significant achievements together. First, in 2018, we showcased the world's first 5G pilot service, and earlier this year, tapping into 5G technology and intercontinental wired networks, technologies to remotely controlled smart factories were also developed. Recently, IITP signed terms of reference with the UK Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sports for mutual collaboration with the goal of 5G Open RAN development. For the past 3 years, we have been tied down by COVID-19. It had a severe impact on our ability to work with overseas partners for international joint research. However, despite these difficulties, you have shown tireless passion for the international joint research. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and pay tribute to your devotion. To charge ahead in the era of digital transformation, IITP will continue and expand the support for international joint research. In closing, I would like to thank you once again for attending today's event, and I hope today's conference will be a fruitful time for you all. Thank you.
네, 안녕하십니까.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much for that warm opening remarks. Next, let me invite Director General Hong Sung-wan for ICT Industry Policy Bureau of the Ministry of Science and ICT for his welcoming remarks. Good afternoon. As introduced, I'm Hong Sung-wan, Director General of the Ministry of Science and ICT. First of all, I would like to thank President Chun Sung-bae of IITP and also His Excellency Ambassador Guillermo Kirkpatrick de la Vega of Spain for his congratulatory remarks, and also to all the participants with the Korea-EU Joint Research Conference that started in 2016. This year celebrated 7th conference, and it has been expanded to also include researchers not only from EU but also from UK and the US. I hope that this Global ICT Collaborative Conference will be an opportunity to share the result of joint research carried carried out together to talk about how to further innovate technology in this era of digital conversion, and also have a free discussions for find further opportunities for collaboration for the various ICT related research. Digital is now more than just changing our daily lives. It's become the tool to lead the advancements of technology industrial growth. It has also become the actor of innovation in every aspect of economy and society. The digital competitive edge has now become the strategic value to win in the technology war of various with various countries. Korea also has introduced digital strategy to become one of the digital leading countries last September. So we are going to focus on AI chip, 5G, 6G, mobile communication, quantum, and metaverse and cybersecurity. In these 6 digital innovation areas, we are going to focus on R&D investment to secure latest technologies. At this conference, we will hope to strengthen a digital partnership with participating countries and also expand collaboration in R&D area. In last May's Korea-US summit meeting, 2 leaders focused on strategic cooperation and decided to focus on joint collaboration from 5G, 6G, quantum, cybersecurity, but also to include AI chip, AI, Open RAN, and XR as the subject areas for joint research between Korea and US. We are going to also continue collaboration with Spain in agriculture, healthcare, robot that is based on AI. We also used leverage Horizon 2020 program to maintain collaboration for European countries through Korea-EU Joint Committee of Science and Technology. We also concluded Korea-EU Digital Partnership last November to strengthen research collaboration in chip, quantum, 6G, and other areas with the UK. 2014, we had Vice Minister level ICT policy dialogue, and last September, when our Vice Minister visited UK, she met with the Permanent Secretary Sarah Healy to discuss further expansion of digital partnership. Also, with the successful research on the 5G AR area that continued from 2019 to 2021, we will also join hands to research in the 5G Open RAN area. We will continue to support various researchers and for the technology development, talent promotion, and infrastructure creation. And again, thank you very much for joining with us at this conference. And I would like to end by wishing you all the best. Thank you very much.
오늘 행사에 참
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to thank Director General Song Hong for your welcoming remarks. So last segment of the opening session is the congratulatory remarks by Spanish Ambassador to Korea, Guillermo de la Vega.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. On behalf of the Spanish government, I am very pleased to have the opportunity to address the Global ICT Research and Development Collaboration Conference. I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizers, the Ministry of Science, and to the Institute for Information and Communication Technology, Planning and Evaluation, IITP, for this opportunity to have a voice to show the Spanish technology advancements in your event. As we all have fresh in our memories, the visits of President Moon Jae-in to Spain last year, 2021, and the previous visits of Their Majesties, the King and the Queen of Spain to the Republic of Korea in 2019 fulfilled the objectives to give an additional push to the bilateral relations between our two countries. During the visit of the King of Spain to South Korea in 2019, Spain organized a business forum in which the technologies related to information and communication were showcased as key enablers for sustained competitiveness. Similarly, during the visit of President Moon Jae-in to Spain in 2021, the digital transition was also highlighted as a key topic for collaboration. Digitalization is in the main agenda of Spain, reaching out not only to the industry, but also to the society in general. The backbone of this digitalization is drafted within the España Digital 2025 agenda, including aspects as diverse as education plans for regular citizens to make better use of the digital applications available to solve daily issues like dealing with the government for consultations and proceedings, to the fostering of all the technologies which will make this transition feasible. Roughly in numbers, the information and communication industry in Spain produces around 115 billion euros annually, employing over 500,000 people. Spain has leading companies in Europe and Latin America in these technologies. The pandemic highlighted the need of how important it is to have a digital infrastructure in place for us to operate, especially when a physical presence is not possible. For example, strong medical digital infrastructure could have helped us all to receive medical consultations when we were confined in our homes, and currently, when we feel sick and unwell, to transfer to the hospital for a consultation. It is just an example of the many digital technologies that can be put to use, and here today in this event, I am thrilled to see what the experts will share and are sharing with us to better understand what these technologies can bring to our daily lives. I am glad to see that from Spain we are having a session on cybersecurity, a key technology to guarantee that our data is safe and treated with confidentiality. The Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation and the Korean Ministry of Science and Information and Communications Technology very recently signed an MOU, which provides an umbrella to these initiatives between the research community of the two countries. Also, I am proud to say that the MOU between the Spanish CEDETI and the Korean IITP provides the basis for the launching on a regular basis of a joint call for proposals with the name of Korea-Spain Innovation Program, or short for CRESIP. This call for proposals is dedicated exclusively to the technologies of information and communications, while in the previous edition, it targeted the technologies of artificial intelligence applied to the industry and the society. I am glad to see that in today's event, one of the successfully approved projects has been or is being presented here. Rest assured that the Spanish government will do its best to provide both political support and resources to facilitate these technologies. We are seeing the end of the pandemic and the return to normalcy. This will in turn provide the opportunity to resume networking activities, which is crucial for our two communities of researchers, to meet in person or digitally to continue sharing experiences. Let me finish by extending one more time my gratitude to our Korean partners and to all the speakers for your knowledge, experience, and your efforts to add value to this event. I wish all researchers and guests a very successful conference. Thank you very much.
네, 뜻깊은 축하 말씀
Thank you very much for that congratulatory remarks, Ambassador. Now, that concludes the opening session of this conference.
Korea's International Collaborative ICT and R&D policy and current status. We'll now welcome Policy Advisor Chris Harley of DCMS of the UK to give pre-recorded presentation.
Colleagues, firstly to introduce myself, my name is Chris Hardley and I am an International Engagement Lead at the UK's Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport. I am very honoured to be here today and I thank my Korean colleagues for the invitation to speak at this event to discuss some of the UK's position on telecoms supply chain diversification and the work we are doing to support the development of open networks such as Open RAN. Firstly, I think it is important to discuss why we are pursuing this policy work. So this all started with the UK's supply chain review report published in July 2019, which highlighted a national security and resilience risk in the reducing competition and diversity in the UK's telecoms supply chain. This lack of supply diversity meant that the UK was increasingly dependent on just a small number of telecoms vendors for an area of increasing critical national importance as telecommunications networks continue to grow in importance for our economic and social security. In response to the supply chain review, DCMS published a 5G supply chain diversification strategy, which set out the government's plan to support a more competitive and diverse telecom supply market, which would increase the quality, innovation, and resilience of our telecoms networks. The diversification strategy set out three key objectives. So firstly, to work with and support the incumbent vendors. So in the UK, that is Nokia and Ericsson primarily, who both play a vital role in the UK's telecoms networks today and will continue to do so in the future. Secondly, it seeks to attract new telecom suppliers to the UK market to increase competition and innovation. And thirdly, it seeks to accelerate the development and deployment of open and interoperable telecoms solutions, such as Open RAN. And then finally, across all three of these objectives, we have an ambition to develop the UK's capability within the telecom sector to harness the UK's strengths in technology and innovation. The telecoms diversification strategy was backed by an initial £250 million investment from the UK government, which seeks to support work across 6 areas or 6 work streams. Firstly, there is a work stream on supply chain assurance, so reviewing and analysing other risks within the UK telecom supply chain. Secondly, on regulatory, so considering what regulatory levers are available to government to support our objectives on telecom supply chain diversification. Thirdly, on scale vendors, so considering the possibility of new scale vendors entering the UK market. Fourth, on Open RAN, so supporting the development and deployment of open and interoperable telecoms networks, as I mentioned earlier. And also on standards and patents, so ensuring that standards and patents in telecoms are developed in a manner which keeps telecoms networks secure and resilient. And then finally, an international work stream, which recognises that working with international partners to increase recognition of the risk around telecom supply chain consolidation and to find shared opportunities with partners around the world is a really important part of this puzzle. I would like to talk to you about a little bit about our position in particular on Open RAN and on our international work as 2 vital elements of delivering these objectives. On Open RAN, in December 2021, the UK government and UK mobile operators set out a shared ambition for 35% of the UK's telecoms network traffic to be carried over open and interoperable architectures by 2030. And then building on this, in April 2022, we published the UK's Open RAN principles. This work recognised that there is a need for clarity on the design characteristics of Open RAN, such as the adoption of standards and the demonstration of interoperability between components. These Open RAN principles clear up this ambiguity to try and ensure that Open RAN delivers on the promise of resilient and secure networks for 5G and beyond, and for competitive and innovative supply chains for the long run. The principles also help to guide any future investment in Open RAN R&D, ensuring it is well targeted and to provide a guide to industry to ensure that the Open RAN technology is being developed and deployed in keeping with our shared security and resilience interests. I would like to share briefly a few examples of how we are investing the £250 million diversification fund in support of some of these objectives. This isn't an exhaustive list, but it is a couple of examples from our programme. So firstly, we ran a competition called Frank, which is the Future RAN competition, which was an open competition run by DCMS, which provided up to £30 million of R&D funding in total to 14 projects, which supported the goals of the government's 5G supply chain diversification strategy. The competition was aimed at helping to incentivize industry to create new products and services to unlock the full potential of Open RAN. Secondly, MutuRAN, which was a project in collaboration with NEC, a Japanese telecommunications company, which created a neutral host Open RAN testbed in the UK, which was supported by a £1.6 million grant from DCMS. And then finally, and possibly most famously, we have also supported SONIC, which is the Smart RAN Open Network Interoperability Centre, which is a facility to test the interoperability and integration of open networking solutions. SONIC is delivered by the UK's Digital Catapult, but is delivered in partnership with DCMS and the UK's communications regulator, Ofcom. The programme is now developed into the Open Networks programme, which will seek to continue to support open and interoperable telecom solutions, with many more interventions similar to these ones being developed over the next few years. And so finally, I would like to turn to our international work stream. I think broadly this can be split into two areas. So the first on policy consensus and the second on tangible action. So the first here is on policy consensus. So we recognise that telecom supply chain consolidation is a global problem that requires a global solution. So the UK has to work with international partners to create a more secure and resilient telecom supply chain. And our international work in this space recognises that and seeks to build that international consensus on the need for action to tackle this change and to agree how we can make that change together. As part of this, we've expanded the UK's Open RAN principles, which I mentioned earlier, by issuing a joint endorsement of them just last week alongside our international partners in the governments of the United States, Australia and Canada, which you'll be able to find more information about online. During the UK's G7 presidency in 2021, we agreed with G7 partners on the importance of promoting secure, resilient and diverse digital telecoms and ICT infrastructure supply chains. And during the Prague 5G Security Conference in 2021, the UK and other international partners developed and endorsed the Prague proposals on telecommunications supply diversity, which set out our shared vision on this issue and how we can jointly tackle it. And then finally, on tangible action, we really recognise the importance of supporting and delivering practical, tangible R&D cooperation to create opportunities for companies and researchers from around the world to work together and to find innovative solutions to these shared challenges. At the end of November this year, so just last month, we were really and extremely pleased to announce the successful launch of our UK Republic of Korea Open RAN R&D collaboration project, which brings together excellent UK and Korean companies to tackle power efficiency challenges in Open RAN technologies. This was our very first international collaborative R&D project in this space, and we're really proud to have cooperated with our Korean counterparts on this. And I would like to pass my thanks to colleagues in IITP in Korea in particular for their support in developing and delivering that cooperation. And we very much look forward to taking that forward between ourselves and between the UK and Korean participant companies as well. And finally, we are looking to develop similar cooperations with other international partners as well, including with the government of Japan, who we signed a UK-Japan telecoms partnership with earlier this year, which, amongst other things, affirmed our commitment to R&D cooperation. So I will end my presentation here, but I would like to thank again my Korean colleagues for inviting me to speak today, and to all of you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. My contact details are on this slide. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions. So finally, I would like to say thank you, 감사합니다, and have a nice day.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much. That was Mr. Chris Adley from DCMS of the UK. Now we will move to the US and hear from Lieutenant Colonel Michael Richards of the Air Force Office of Scientific Research of the US.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Mike Richards. I'm an International Program Officer in the Asian Office of Aerospace Research and Development, which is one of the international offices for the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, which itself is one of the directorates within the Air Force Research Lab. And to help situate this presentation, we're going to start with the Air Force Research Lab and show how our organization falls within it. So, at a glance, the Air Force Research Lab, or AFRL, is the primary scientific research and development center for the Department of the Air Force, which consists of the Air Force and the recently formed Space Force. AFRL has over 11,000 employees. It is a mix of military, civilian, and contractors, and is spread over 10 different states across the United States, as well as several international offices, making AFRL a global entity. In addition to being separated geographically, AFRL is also divided up into different scientific fields, and each of these fields finds a home in a specific directorate. You can look through and see you have aerospace systems, human performance, materials and manufacturing, sensors, experimentation, directed energy, space vehicles, information, munitions, and then on the bottom right-hand corner, basic research, which is AFOSR, and that's where I work. So within all of those directorates, there is one overarching mission, and that is to lead, discover, develop, and deliver science, technology, and innovation for warfighters. Stepping down from that AFRL level to our AFOSR, again, where I work, the Air Force Office of Scientific Research, our mission is to discover, shape, and champion bold, high-risk, high-reward basic research to profoundly impact the United States Air Force and Space Force. Now, just as AFRL is divided up into different directorates to do its work, AFOSR is divided into several different divisions to accomplish its mission. Those divisions are either scientific areas or groups of offices that do the same kind of work. Now, for this ICT community, the most important of these divisions is probably the Information and Networks division. If you look under that heading, you can see the different portfolios that are managed within that division. And each of those portfolios has a program officer who manages the portfolio, and they are typically very well connected with US-based researchers in these areas. I've highlighted information and networks, but if you look to the left and the right, you'll see several other areas of engineering and the physical sciences that are also important to the ICT community. And then if you look to the far right, you can see the International Office, which is made up of all of the different offices that we have around the world. And again, I'm in that top office, the Asian Office of Aerospace Research and Development. So when you look at AFOSR, you can see that we are spread throughout the world. We've got our headquarters in Arlington, and then international offices, 2 in South America, 1 in Europe, 1 in Asia, and we're standing one up in Australia next month, actually. There are 3 main tools that the international offices use to accomplish their mission. The first of those, and the most common, is research projects, where we provide 1 to 3 year grants to researchers who are doing research that we see as valuable for AFRL's mission. The second tool is conference support. This is less common, but in general, we like to see scientific connections. We like to see building relationships between different researchers, and so we will support small, focused conferences to help build those relationships. And then the final tool that we use is called Windows on Science, where we take a researcher from outside of the United States and provide them travel funding to go and visit researchers in AFRL to present their work. And the goal with this is to, again, increase those relationships and to help share the science that's being done outside of the United States. To give you an idea of the scope of the work that we do, this is the results that we had at the end of fiscal year 21. So that was October of 2021. It shows that we had 416 projects from the international offices in 5 different continents on 50 different countries. And most of these, again, are those research projects. And we're divided up into geographical areas. So in Tokyo, we take care of everything in Asia and Australia. The Australian office, which is standing up soon, will take over some of that work. The EORD office in London takes care of everything in Europe and Africa. The Santiago and Sao Paulo offices divide up the work that are in South America. And then we actually have an international North American office that takes care of all the North American countries. If the 3 main tools I mentioned, grants, conference support, and Windows on Science, are thought of as hand tools, then we have a 4th tool known as global initiatives that could be thought of as a power tool. It gets a lot more work done and costs a lot more money, but I want to talk a minute about it. Global initiatives are self-organized international programs that consist of U.S. researchers and international researchers partnering to form a team and work on a project jointly. Now, each of the U.S. and the international country does their own call for proposals, which enables each country to find the best of its own researchers. And then they review the proposals and identify which ones they think are best. And then come back together and say, where do we have overlap that we would both like to see progress on, and then select those projects to fund. Very competitive within that joint selection process. Somewhere on the order of only 10 to 30% of projects end up getting selected. And what we find is that this approach really leverages global R&D investment and produces significantly better results than if we were to fund either the international researcher or the U.S. researcher by themselves. The United States and Korea have a really great history when it comes to these initiatives. I first want to talk briefly about the Nanotechnology Initiative, which started in 2003 and went through 4 phases, 3 years each, until 2018, and produced such impressive results that we were able to get additional funding to start a space and a quantum initiative. Now, I manage the quantum portfolio in Tokyo, and so the quantum initiative is my responsibility. The U.S.-Korea Quantum Initiative started with a handful of projects for just a couple of years as a pilot program, and once that concluded, it was sufficiently high-performing that the decision was made to go on to a full program, which started last year with funding of 10 different projects on the U.S. and the Korea side that were divided up into 3 topical areas: quantum communication, quantum computers, and quantum materials. Now, just this last October, we had our first annual review, which went very well. We held it there in Seoul at the Ewha University. And since then, I have been collecting the first year metrics, and I've got 7 of 10 projects reporting, and we've already had 10 publications, 42 presentations, 7 awards or recognitions, 2 patents, and over $2 million of additional funding has been secured. So this program is off to a great start, and we're looking forward to the next 2 years, as well as already planning on what we will do for the next phase of this initiative as well. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
네, 고맙습니다.
Yes, thank you very much. That was a presentation on the US ICT policy and cases. Thank you very much, sir. We're going to listen to the final presentation. Representative of CDTI, Jordi Esplogabach, will talk about Spain's ICT policy and cases.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jordi, as been said, and here it's in the presentation. I'm the director of CTI. CTI is a public funding agency. I'm based here in Seoul as Chancellor of Science and Technology at the Embassy of Spain. And I've been suggested to give a presentation on Spain ICT policies and cases. I'll go through the policies that we are been implementing in Spain, together with the budgets associated to that. And then in the final part, I'll explain a little bit about the programs that we have running with Korea to support joint research in ICT. First question is, why Spain? Many of you may be thinking Spain might not be relevant in ICT, or I don't know. You might wonder that in Europe, what is Spain doing within that big region? And for you to have here to put some references, and I think it's good to position Spain in the context. We have that number of companies, which is in increase over the previous year. I have to say that data is before the pandemic, so with the pandemic it went down, now it recovered, and I've been told that it equals to the pre-pandemic levels, with turnover, including industry and contents, of 120 billion euro, which also is in sharp increase versus the previous year, employing 500,000 people with an investment of 18,000 million euro, and that contributes to a gross value added of around 42,000 million euro. And that related to GDP, for you to put in context how important is ICT for the economy of Spain in terms of contribution to GDP, it's around 3.4%, which is in similar terms to Italy, a little lower than Germany and the UK, which are probably your reference countries when it comes to technology prowess and so on. So it's quite significant. It's quite significant in terms of similar terms to the rest of countries. In trade and commerce, we are importing more than exporting, especially, as you can see, with 23,000 million euro of imports versus 17,000 million of exports, whereas we import 69% of goods in ICT it's imported, but Spain is very powerful in exporting services. So it's a country which export more services than goods. So it's in the service balance we are in positive, whereas in the goods balance we are in negative. Foreign direct investment, it's close to 2 billion, whereas Spanish companies investing abroad, it's 3 times this. It's 1.50% more than that. So we are net exporters, net investors overseas. Some key facts about Spain, it's the policies are aligned with the European digital agenda. Spanish enjoys a very, very strong position in the market. So the Spanish companies in Europe, in Northern Africa and Latin America, they enjoy some robust presence there. In telecommunications, for instance, it's well known Telefonica, for instance, just to name one, but there are so many. And that has a pull effect on the businesses and investments and cooperation with these countries. And I have to say that especially in service, so a lot of those investments went into the service part. Talent, I would like to pinpoint that talent because in Spain we are proud to say that the universities are good, and especially in ICT. We've seen in the previous session some examples, and the talent is guaranteed that will supply a good knowledge based of PhD students and so on to fit the industry when it comes to capacity building in the form of talent. Then infrastructure, including communications, and we have top-notch research institutes. For instance, the Supercomputing Center in Barcelona is well known, and currently, actually, they have some joint research projects with Korean entities. And then there is a solid government push, meaning that funding from the government, which we'll see now in the form of policies. These are drafted within the so-called España Digital 2026, which is the agenda, and it goes around 3 pillars and 2 transversal initiatives. Let me go one by one. The first pillar is infrastructure technologies, which provides the enabling support and technologies for that to happen. The first one is connectivity. We want that all the territory of Spain it's fully connected with at least 100 megabytes per second anywhere in the territory, so you can deploy a business wherever you like. It's not just in the main capitals, so that provides equal opportunities to any company deciding to invest in Spain. It's supported with 2 billion euro, so it's more than 2 billion US. 5G implementation, which should be completed by 2025, and now currently moving towards 6G already, and that supported 1.5 billion euro over the coming 4 years. And then cybersecurity, because it's as we addressed in the previous session, the data needs to be processed in a secure form, in a secure manner. So we need to make sure that everything is free from hacking, with an additional 1 billion, and includes the implementation of operation centers in cybersecurity. And then data economy and artificial intelligence, which with some strategic top-down projects to bring more investments and more knowledge into the domain of artificial intelligence, together with quantum and AI integration in all the value chain, throughout the value chain. The second is economy, around 4 axes. Here is the digital transformation. It's more on the demand, market demand side. It's digital transformation of the public sector and the private sector. So the public sector is with 3 billion euro in the form of cloud, digital transformation, national, regional, local administration. So we should be able to do all the dealings with the public administration online, justice, etc. And then the digital transformation for the companies, for the enterprises. I think that's very relevant, because those who need the most are small and medium enterprises, and these guys, they need the strongest support, with 5 billion to support them in going into more, for instance, e-commerce, digitalization of all the processes they have, smart manufacturing, everything that is needed in here for them to become more digital. We want to make Spain a audiovisual hub, and being sustainable. That's everything has to be organic and sustainable. And the third axis are the people. We're talking about digital competences. What's the meaning of that? I mean, what do we expect from people to become more competent on that? It's basically to be more familiar with everything that's digital, right? Digitalization of the school system, so the kids can use better digital systems, more training in digital technologies, raising awareness, capacitation of the society, etc., and together with the digital rights. So we need to make sure that the knowledge that's produced there stays there and it's safe. It's not being used by third parties without the permit. And then in the part of transversal initiatives, we have two big initiatives, the PERTE, for you to, it's a Spanish acronym. Are strategic projects for the recovery and digital transformation. That budget is huge. It's in the for the 2021-2024, 30 billion euro, but it's not just on ICT. It supports a lot of different industries and technologies: electric and connected vehicle, health, energy renewable and hydrogen, agro-food, culture and language, circular economy, naval industry, water and resources, aerospace, electronics and semiconductor, and social economy. But being the ICT technologies the backbone of pretty much all of them, so one of the main beneficiaries or technology beneficiaries of those 30 billion, they go into the ICT, into the information and communication technologies. And they act as a transversal way into all of these different industrial sectors. And then we have the Red Tech initiative, which is regional networks of technological specialization. And by that, the aim is to articulate projects which are not duplicated, especially duplicated in different regions. So to make sure that those regions, they coordinate each other, they seek synergies with each other, and then they exploit the complementarity. So the money is well used in those specific projects that are funded from the government. And then when it comes to opportunities for collaboration with Korea, the start program here in ICT is without any doubts the Korea-Spanish joint collaboration that we have between CTI, the two logos there, between the CTI and ITP, which with the first call it was in 2021, and it was in the domain of artificial intelligence for two sectors, economy and society. Pretty much included everything. When it comes to economy, we're talking about industry 4.0, smart manufacturing, energy, environment, safety, everything that's related to the economy. And then society means for us as individuals, as citizens, public administration, e-government, e-health, smart city, even online education, everything that relates to society. And now the good news is that the projects now are ongoing. We selected two projects. Of those two projects now, by the way, one of these projects will be presented during the session today, and the projects will end in 2024. So we from next year we'll start the talks, discussions on next call between CTI and ITP in the ICT, in the information and communication technologies, for an announcement either 2024 or 2025, and will be in similar terms. So it's to support middle-sized projects of around between 1 and 2 million for each country, because they have to be balanced with at least one company, one entity from each country, which in consortium they pool resources to develop a new product, process or services into the specific technologies that we are going to target on that specific call. The commitment is that CTI will invest to the Spanish companies, ITP will invest to the Korean companies to make sure and guarantee that the project ends well, everyone is fully funded, and it has an impact from the market. So it has a monetization of the project from either companies making money, universities creating knowledge, and research institutes also creating knowledge and making good use of it. And with that, I end my presentation. I give you my contact details if anyone wants to call me later. And thank you again for MSIT and ITP for this nice opportunity that I had here to explain a little bit about Spain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now that was on Spanish ICT policies and cases. Thank you for that presentation. That concludes the first session of the 2022 Global ICT Collaboration Conference, where we looked at different ICT R&D policies of US, UK, Spain, and Korea. Thank you very much for all the presentations. So we will now continue with the second session. So in the second session, we're going to look at the global ICT and R&D collaboration. And we have Q&A session after after each presentation. The first presentation of the second session will be from President Han Seok-kim of Solid Labs, and he's going to talk about UK-Korea 5G Open RAN technology.
네, 안녕하십니까?
Afternoon. I'm the project leader from the Korean side for the UK-Korea collaboration research project. This is on 5G Open RAN technology. So let me start my presentation. So this project is led from the Korean side from Solid Labs. The business areas of this company includes O-RAN systems and wireless repeaters and RF and digital modules for wireless communications, as well as optical transmission devices. Especially Solid Labs for the last 4 years have contributed toward the standardization of the O-RAN technology. So this is the Solid Labs experience related to this project. Solid Labs have already had experience on commercializing product based on O-RAN technology, especially for the US market, including multiband ORU, CBRS ORU, and OLF for DAS interfacing to support the legacy DAS. So we have already commercialized products for these areas. One thing I would also like to add is that in case of CBRS ORU, there is special feature demanded from the CBRS, and that was not reflected in the Open LAN spec. So as a proprietary, we developed this in a proprietary way, and Solid Labs have carried out multi-vendor IoT with various ODU vendors. These vendor companies include Keysight, ASUS, Mavenir, Fujitsu, and one of the major base station vendors. We also did IoT. We also RFIC, which is our project partner. This company is focused on radio frequency hybrid. This stands for radio frequency hybrid integrated circuit. So as you can see, they are focused on RFD components. So their product line includes the MMIC radar module, RF generators, and etc. And RFIHIC's experiences include: first, personalized communication module RFI was first to commercialize this, and with the global companies in the area of the 5G, they have been carrying out various projects. And here I quoted 3 press releases that shows their collaboration with the world leaders, especially for the Vodafone DC net. With the telco companies, they said they were collaborating with Samsung, and its Samsung product RFHIC's RF module was used. Now, let me talk about our project. So the objective of this project is very much evident in the project name. So we are focused on developing high-efficiency ORAN power amplifier and ORAN distributed antenna system. So developing them and validating them are our objective. On the left side, on the blue boxed area, it shows the scope of the network elements that is needed for our validation. And in the middle, in the red box area, shows the devices that will be developed through our project. So frontal multiplexer, ORU products, and power amplifier, these components are the ones that we're going to develop. And for the ORAN power amplifier, which would be developed by RFHIC, their power efficiency target is more than 47%, and 3.6 in the 3.6 gigahertz band, 200 megahertz wide bandwidth will be supported. And also it will use compact side metal PCB technology and high efficiency thermal radiation RF packaging. The Solid Labs will develop ORAN distributed antenna system, and this will have front hole MUXIP multiplexer and ORU and supports shared cell ORU architecture. It has can support maximum 14 ORUs, and this ORU device consumes low power, and target is to consume less than 60 watts. And compared to already commercialized products, this means consumption of the power will be reduced by more than 20%. As in power amplifier, it has a wide bandwidth of 200 megahertz at 3.6 gigahertz band, and its wide area support. It supports 25 gigahertz BPS front haul, and ORAN it will support a standard version 7.0. The first commercialized model was version 3.0, and as a differentiated feature, it has uplink noise reduction and also energy optimization. This will be further explained in the next page. So the technology related to these projects include on the top green box area, you see 4 technologies, which are the basic technologies required from the ORAN. And the already commercialized, based on our commercialization experience, we have already secured these technologies. And based on these technologies, these 4 technologies in the blue box, which is advancement of the basic technologies, will be developed and will be applied in the product through this project. The 200 megahertz and 25 gigahertz, I've already talked about this. And NB-IoT and eMTC will be also supported. 25 BPS is the existing products supported 10 gigahertz of speed. It goes more than just increasing clock speed. Packet buffering, memory access, speed limitations all needs to be overcome. So it's quite challenging in terms of technology development. And for the shared cell ORU architecture, from various ORUs, the upward signals at a FHMM, they will be combined. That means the uplink signals noise would actually increase. But in this project, through selective combining approach, uplink noise will be suppressed as much as possible. We will develop that technology. In terms of energy optimization, RIC, land intelligence controller based and energy optimizer technology will be developed. And also, as I said beforehand, less than 60 megawatts low power consumption will be achieved through single SoC-based single platform technology. So this FHM and ORU device developed through these efforts, through collaboration with the UK collaboration, we'll do MB-IoT, and the real-world environment will validate them. So UK consortium and UK-based Sonic Labs will be our collaboration partner, and so various ODU vendors, Marvenia, Pludio, Redisys, will be our IoT partners in this and in the commercial network. Service providers and other systems will all be used for the end-to-end validation in the commercial networks. So the technology that I explained to you that we will develop will be validated through this process. About 2 weeks ago in London, with the UK consortium, we had a kickoff meeting, and at the time, as this was the first meeting in terms of future direction collaboration was discussed. So on a high level, we decided to have regular meeting bi-monthly, but of course on-spot, on-demand meeting, mostly through a virtual meeting, will also be carried out. And as the first step, the ORU that we will develop and ODU which will be developed on the UK side, we will define IoT profile, and the power amplifier to be developed by HID, which will be applied from the macro ORD. So we will discuss that requirement. And as the second step, multi-vendor IoT scenarios will be developed. And the UK consortium is very much has the technology strength in the RC-based energy optimization. So we will discuss a developing scenario for that. And as the last step, we'll test it out in the real world environment through our end-to-end validation activities. So that will be the last step in this collaboration. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
네, 한국
Yes, that was presentation on the UK Korea 5G ORAN technology. I'd like to thank President Han-seok Kim for your presentation. Like what's mentioned, we have received some questions from the online platform. I'm going to ask one question.
이 질문에 대해
So this will be answered by Mr. Kim here. Now, land intelligent controller, the RSC base is what you talked about. So for energy, could you give an example of the energy optimization scenario? Well, RIC is is a focused device which is in the center of network, and from on the bottom side they collect traffic related information. So ORU device, for example, has 2 antennas, and of those during the low traffic time during early morning, and one antenna path, they command that power needs to be off. So the real-time command is given, and depending on the situation, it could also command to turn it on again. That will result in energy saving results. So thank you very much for that answer. Now we will move on to the next presentation.
세션입니다. 이어서 한국
So the next session is on the 6G joint research between the US and Korea. The professor Min-Seok Choi will present. He works at Kyung University.
네. 네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 한미
Good afternoon. I've been engaged in joint research between the US and Korea for about a year. I am Professor Min-Seok Choi from Kyung University. In Korea, Kyung University is a main research organization, and USC, University of South California, is the main research institution on the US side. The title is Federated Learning for Privacy Preserving Video Caching Networks. Because the time is limited, I'm going to talk about the motivation and research plan and the achievements so far, some deliverables that we have achieved so far in a very brief way. So, mobile devices receive data from cloud. The task of data storage and processing was done on cloud, but thanks to memory and chip development, now the mobile devices can store more data in edge caching, and it can process and compute more data, edge computing, and it can also learn more data, mobile AI or distributed learning. So on the edge, more technologies can be implemented, but in order to combine all that, we need something more. We wanted to create more smart and well-distributed mobile network or computing. So that kickstarted our research, and this is application scenario. So content delivery network, and CDN was our focus. The reason being is out of global data traffic, about 70% of the traffic is from mobile video service. So because of this, we attach higher importance to CDN. And because of AR and VR, high volume content service is receiving a lot of attention. So this mobile traffic will become even pressing issue in the future. So we wanted to integrate edge technology to implement distributed edge computing. As you can see on this slide, in our daily lives, we use Netflix and other OTT services. So when we ask for a certain content, very far away company server will give the content out to our device. That was how things used to be in the past. But when a lot of redundant and repetitive requests were made for a particular content, that content can be stored in the cache server or edge server closer to the users or viewers. So if that happens, content doesn't need to travel all the way from the server, reducing the data traffic. It will bring down in turn latency, backhaul cost, and traffic congestion. So that is the very basic idea that brought life to our edge caching network project. So when you think about CDN, there are mobile devices. The consumer of the content is at the lower bottom of the pyramid, and CSP is on top, content service providers. and internet service providers in the middle that enables traffic of those content. And ISP is under a lot of pressure, and recently the issue of network utilization fees have brought to the fore. To lessen the burden, the popular content that is expected to be requested by a lot of users can be placed closer to the users and consumers. That is edge-wired caching. So as you can see from this image, popular contents are brought closer to the users, but cache servers and cache infrastructure is smaller, way smaller compared to the centralized servers ran by CSPs. So how and what to cache is a new problem we need to solve. And there are multiple servers, multiple users, how to send, transfer, and schedule those content. Those questions have to be answered in planning different caching planning caching of different content, popularity, and the users of the certain contents presumably were known to the different stakeholders. That was the presumption we operated on in the past, but that is not the quite accurate reflection of the reality. The preference and the popularity of different content and the users are dynamic, they change all the time, and the networks are fluid as well, and the users are on the move as well. So all of these uncertainties and lack of clarity are there. So how are we going to cache and transfer different content on the network? And we need to also convert the content and quality of that content with different computational decisions. So we need to bring in AI to make right decisions with all these questions. For AI to learn, you need to collect data from users and about the contents. In order to enable that, you have to upload the data, leading to higher traffic congestions and traffic. And there is another important issue of privacy protection and PII protection. To handle these issues, we present the idea of federated learning. Simply put, federated learning does not involve uploading the personally identifiable information or data that bears any individual data to the server. The learning is done on the distributed way in the mobile devices held by individuals in a federated way. So when the outcome of the learning is compiled and collected together and brought onto the server, it will be almost the same as the outcome of the centralized learning. But the problem is, without uploading the data set, of course, we can protect the privacy. But recently, the research pointed that with the deep learning model, the private data and PII information can be inferred. So one research paper pointed out. So the research team wanted to ensure we create more proprietary technology that protects personal data as much as possible and bring the federated learning on top of that data. Of course, the data will not be transferred, and deep learning model, the outcome of the learning itself, will only shared in a minimal way, only as much as it is absolutely needed, so that the protection of private data is at the optimal and the utmost level. So that is the simple summary. So content service provider and internet service providers can protect users' private data with this federated learning algorithm that we develop, and video caching and delivery network can reflect our own federated learning algorithm. Users' preferences are quite diverse, so personalized learning model can be generated, and that's another part of our goals. So this is the research group. On the US side, we have Professor Andreas Molisch at USC as a PI. And he is already an IEEE fellow, and he authored the first and the best papers about CDN caching. And the research team on the Korean side are younger, so we are balancing the new ideas with the old expertise. And Korea University is the main research entity. We have long experience researching caching and AI-assisted caching. And meta-federated learning is usually done by Professor Min-seok Choi, and Inha University's Professor Young-jin Kim has cloud edge mobile storage and computing as his expert field, and he will contribute a lot to our research endeavor. And this is a simple diagram of our final goal. Privacy preserving video caching system is our ultimate goal. The red boxes indicate key attributes and properties of the caching system. So we're going to ensure protection of the personal data and privacy data from CSPs and ISCs, and we're going to offer personalized service to the users, and the issues that is meaning perennial for CDN like latency, efficiency, and accuracy will be also addressed. To find answers to all those questions, we're going to take the first step of cooperative FL. And split FL and bidirectional FL. We proposed 3 different methods of federated learning, or FL, and we are making new and more attempts with FL. And in the past, video caching was addressed with mathematical calculation. But now deep learning, or AI, is harnessed. After deep learning is used, a federated framework can benefit from different principles. So deep learning, video caching, and federated learning will be combined and optimized at the software level. That is the third step. And finally, we'll go a little bit deeper. And at the network level, resource allocation and scheduling will be also addressed. So entire content delivery network will be optimized. And with the small demo set, we want to showcase the actual implementation of such a system. So let me briefly talk about the outcome so far. So private data protection, ISP and CSPs are already completely developed, the technology needed for that. So the communication between ES and servers will not be there. Different devices will conduct learning on its own, and the outcome out of those distributed learning is on par. That is already evidenced by the key paper, and we have already published the paper. So next one is split FL. So personalized service offered to users based on their preference, and the technology for this has been already developed. We used federated and split learning altogether. So machine learning is divided into different segments, and different data were stored on mobile device and the servers at the same time. So mobile data set reflects accurately the individual's, that person's preference, and the learning is done in a more general way for the data set stored on the server. Server would not access the individualized data that is stored on the mobile device, ensuring private data protection. And we have been accepted as a speaker at the next year's Infocom conference. And next bit is, the previous one was about training of split FL, but this one is inference phase of split federated learning. The technology is helpful in facilitating learning when the data or the data set are stored into different device and server. That will also conducive in reducing latency or data traffic congestion. In the inference phase, we have completed the study and research on this part of the chain and spectrum. And we are currently also working on the implementation project. When you are dealing with massive scale data set, it will involve a lot of effort and time when you try to make a demo. So from the initial stage, we're concurrently working on demo at the same time. So split federated learning was covered in dual approach, training and inference. In at the time of training, private data is a little bit exposed still. So meta FL means in the phases of training and inference, the user data is completely protected. We have developed this separately. This was not part of the proposal during the phase of candidacy, but in the course of research, we identified this new study topic. And video caching, delivery, and resource allocation, and the overall network optimization is also part of our research. In the absence of AI, network optimization is completely done. Afterwards, AI-created federated learning outcome is applied. So the network optimization before and after the application of AI can be compared, and our journal has already been published in SCI journals. So very disparate data sets are held by different users. Even in this situation, global model can learn from those data sets. So the original technology for domain learning is also being studied. Also, this was not part of the proposal. So this was our quantitative performance indicators, and we are nearing the end of 22. We have 3 papers published by 3 international SCI journals, and 3 other papers are accepted, and those papers will be published next year. So it will be captured as a performance for the next year. And we are keeping close. We are on par in achieving these numbers, international conferences and all. But the patents are something that we are lagging a little bit behind, but we do have some time left. So I believe we will be able to achieve the target for the patent as well. So SCI journal and top CS conference papers, our goal was 9, and we are over or nearing 2/3 of the goal. And JCR percentile, our goal was 15%, and ours is much higher than that, 8.5%. And top CS conference papers and IF of top CS, we have reached 4. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
네.
Well, thank you very much on that presentation about US-Korea 6G technology research project.
와 계시.
We have received a question prior to the event, so I'm going to pose this question to Professor Choi. So privacy preserving cache system was the topic. So as you protect personal data, you are also offering personalized tailoring from your uniquely developed algorithms. Based on that outcome or technology, what kind of new industry or scenarios can we expect going forward? So realistically, in order for this technology to explore a new industry, of course, there can be other political or social issues at play. But in the e-commerce transaction, there is someone who produces that good and to distribute the good and consume the goods. But for digital content or digital resources, the contents to produce and store, it also influences the distribution and consumption of the content. That's what we thought. So CSPs and ISPs level, there are different elements. So we are thinking about privacy protection to the level of ISPs, and if we can allow data protection at the CSP level at the same time, ISPs CSPs will not involve or interfere too much in the distribution phase, and ISPs will be checked when they're trying to access personal data too aggressively. So it can erect new order for digital content. Yes, I hope. I wish I can benefit from this excellent technology faster. Thank you.
한
Next Next, we will hear about the U.S. Korea Quantum Technology Joint Research, and that presentation will be delivered by Professor Young-Jun Yu of Chungnam National University. Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk about the quantum technology research. We are collaborating with the U.S., so thank you for this opportunity. So this is about waveguide coupled interlayer exciton condensation LED in 2D heterostructure for quantum optics application. And Korean partner is Chungnam National University. And we are also working with ETRI, and U.S. partner is Professor Philip Kim's group at the Harvard University. As a background, the mobile phones and notebook that we use all use a lot of energy. And given that background, there's a restriction in using the communication tools, and they're thinking also a lot about using laser communication. So creating small satellite, and from the satellite, using the laser, we can deliver information. And that is what laser communication is about. So there is a lot of interest in developing this technology. So in terms of the wavelength used for that communication is NIR. To send the information, the sender and the receiver needs to share the information, and a third party needs to not be able to see that information. And here you need use encryption. So for the encryption, we need to make this laser special, and that we call entanglement lidar source. So for this area, different technologies are being developed, and for this joint research, as you can see, the quantum information transmission and the other areas are being focused of the development. It comes to semiconductor material, various thick research was done, but using one quantum chip to couple it, we need to create a new wave length. So in a small chip, you condense that and minimize it, and the ultimate goal is create stabilized system based on it. For that, new material will be used, and with the graphene receiving Nobel Prize a few years ago, the interest on this new material has risen. So the usage of the secondary material based on his technology is increasing. Graphene, you can use it as a metal, and for HBM, the band gap is high, so you can use that as an insulator. And for TMDC, the band gap is adequate, so it can be used as a semiconductor. So if you bring all these three things together, ELECA using FD material, or you can create also chemical or electric materials, and based on that, quantum secondary material will be combined. And more recently, within the secondary material, if you have DPAC, then from there, various other things can be available, but DPAC is not something you can systematically handle. So anti-P types 2D materials, so we combine them together, and conduction band and balance band is shared, and from then the light source will be created. So this light source, and I'm talking about, is for encryption purposes. So in the devices, you have the optical signal coming out, and through the collaboration, it's squeezed. So actually, if they are not correlated, then as you see in the K1, as a dots, it needs to be available. But if to create these conditions, chip semiconductor in the quantum area, exciton, that is required. So this pairs up with other things, and it recombinated for as a new optical source, a source of light. And this require long-lasting exciton, so indirect exciton or interlayer exciton structure is needed. So conduction band and balance band is shared, and this structure is on the secondary material that I talked about in the interlayer and exciton that can be created. So by interlayer exciton and with the temperature and density that are adequate, and then through condensation, the low interacted exciton can be created, and this integrated exciton from there can be created. At the Harvard University, interlayer exciton research was already carried out, and from that light conditions are created, and they are trying to create correlated proton. So through this LED material we created, and the light source coming out of that are coupled through and as a waveguide, it will be put on the on-chip. So as a first step in the heterostructure, interlayer exciton will be created, and therefore the various conditions will be created, and correlation photon pair will be created, and this operation temperature to commercialize that, we increase that temperature to create light source, and we want to make it a speedy light source. And for that, more detailed specification can be as follows. The material needs to be very good for us to create a certain light source. So within this, we need carriers to move where. So carrier mobility needs to be higher than 100 and needs to come out as light. So LED content efficiency needs to be more than 10. And in the exciton that I talked about also needs to be high. So after creating the LED device on below that, the light that came out is coupled and needs to be delivered through the communication. And the waveguide for that is structured like this. And silicon nitride waveguide and silicon dioxide, Xi, or the substrate, it's combined together, so the surface can be clean. So we integrate by combining two, and then the light is gathered together and correlate photon two-mode squeeze layer. The photon generation will be secured. The end product will be, as I said, the LED device that is based on the interlayer exciton, and will be packaged. And then using this light source, we hope to use that for the quantum communication. So at Harvard University, this type of heterostructure, electrical and its electrical-driven lasing was already complete. So MOSUD and the MOSC junction area. So the light is raised electrically. So that's where we are starting off. So this light, is it coming from the interlayer or natural result? 10 nanosecond and 20 nanosecond, there are two cases. And in case of semiconductor, if it's 100 nanoseconds, it's coming out from the gas. So based on that, we can say we have had similar interexciton. So as I said, creating this device and then substrate that can be coupled needs to be integrated. So this is the research that we are currently doing. So nitro waveguide is at the bottom, WS2, MOC suite is on top of that, and through that, integrated light source is what we want to get. And while doing this, on top of silicon LED, we put LED. For light to be coupled well, the silicon nitride surface needs to be very smooth. But mechanically, we try to create it, but there is a limitation. So another idea is the same concept, but the waveguide is not at the bottom but on the top. So we create this type of element, and then solution type box 16 is coded, and then through e-beam writing, the screen, you get the waveguide, and based on that, you couple with the light and get it to the outside. For that, the WS2, we create this one, and photoluminescence is used to check the light position, and we see especially where the light is coming out. For that, at the room temperature, low temperature, and number 1, number 3, continuously bright excitant point gives out the light, and top of that, we can put in the waveguide. So fabrication for that is underway, and through this process, what we need to do is simulation, because this waveguide's dimension, depending on then coupled and generated light shape will be different. So as you can see, where there's light source, after it's coupled, then comes to the another substrate, so the light shape needs to be checked, and reversely waveguide dimension should be also again conferred for fabrication purposes. So this research, as I said, are joined by Cheongnam National University, ETRI, and Harvard University. Each roles are as follows: CHN, we are focused on demonstration, characterization of p-n junction of 2D heterostructure, and that information is shared with Harvard University. We're creating LED together, and from that we create correlated photon source. And ETRI's wave guide characters are also researched together, and we look at how to create the right waveguide, and ultimately at TRI and Harvard University, they will integrate 2D LED and on-chip waveguide. So these are the R&R of our 3 teams. So the previous 2 things, create LED vines on bottom, silicon nitride substrate. On top of that, other waveguide were created. But besides that, we do also have 2 other research ideas. These are also being carried at commercialized fiber on top of it, or silicon substrate, putting that in the next to it to couple with the 2D device for more efficiency. And as I said, through this collaboration, CNU, ETRI, Harvard University, we are trying to making our best efforts to create the best research results. Thank you for your attention.
네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much. That was from Professor Youngjun Yu from Cheongnam National University. So again, we do have a question you shared a lot of research results, and as given there are 3 parties involved, you need to do a lot of communication. But if you collaborate to US, there is a geographical distance problem. So how do you actually collaborate together? Actually, it's better to be side by side for this type of research. But we always keep the communication open and frequent communication together. And thanks to pandemic, we're so used to communicating virtually. So we also even had a Zoom meeting yesterday to talk about today's presentation. So we have routine meetings, and on demand basis, we have also short coming together to share information, to share research results. But in the future, we will also take trips to see what the research progress of the other parties. So despite pandemic, through close cooperation and communication, I believe he's making his research into a success.
네 번째와 5번째 세션이 앞뒤가 조금
So we have changed a bit of order of the next 2 presentations. So this session will be about Finland Korea's 6G network security research, and this will be delivered by Professor Julian Tilla of Oulu University.
Hello everybody, greetings from Finland. So let me share my slides. Okay, so I'm talking today about our joint collaboration project related to 6G network security. So my name is Professor Mika Ylianttila. Sorry. And I'm leading a research group at the center at the University of Oulu, Finland, focusing on topics of network security, trust, and privacy. And we are developing secure, scalable, resource-efficient techniques for 5G and beyond 5G networks. So the topic of my talk is to discuss about our joint collaboration with ETRI in Korea. So our main topics in this joint project are related to these essential aspects of 6G security. So we are looking at different mechanisms, how to make 6G more secure, and how to enable the privacy in 6G. So especially if we are looking into the modeling of the trust in the network, looking on some of the foundational technologies and requirements for enabling trustworthy networking in the when we move beyond the 5G, current 5G networks. And we are also interested about contributing to the standardization aspects such as the ITU. And the project also considers collaboration for sharing, promotion, dissemination of joint research project outcomes between Korea and Finland in this area of 6G security. So here we can see, so the ETRI side of the research is led by, the Korean side of the research is led by ETRI. So we have Dr. Young-Hoon Kim is the leader of this side of the project. So maybe if there are some questions regarding to the ETRI side of the research, he can comment on that. So ETRI side research is focusing on this use cases, 6G security by design, and trust network modeling as the key parts. In the Finland side, we have worked recently on these intrusion detections and data sets. So where we have also collaborated with ETRI. So the idea is that we try to find joint research topics and we have focused currently on these aspects. So in the use case kind of definition side, so we have looked into the starting from the kind of the challenges of the current 5G networks and what we will face when moving beyond 5G systems. So the current systems are kind of the starting point, and what needs to be done when designing the 5G systems further when we move towards to 6G. And one interesting area is that we have this more automation coming to the network. So we have these AI-based techniques and so on. So how we can make them also more secure in the next generation mobile networks. So one of the main themes is also this trust model. So how we can develop the trustworthy networking, what kind of trust mechanisms are needed. So to move maybe further from the current systems and try to identify if there are some vulnerabilities in the current systems, how we can make them more robust, more reliable. So this kind of different consideration related to that. So how we can make the trust chaining kind of type of idea, that instead of trusting, having this kind of a single third party trusted authority as we have in the current internet model. So how we can look into the more distributed model of trust. That's one area of what we are looking into. So as mentioned, we are also interested about the standardization aspects. So we have been working led by ETRI in the ITU side of the standardization, for example, and also following closely the other standardization forums. So if I talk next a little bit more about what we are doing in the Finland side, shortly. So we have this big program called 6G Flagship. So it's funded by the Finnish government and Academy of Finland, and we are doing collaboration with companies like Nokia and with other research institutes in the area. So we are looking into the different enabling technologies with the goal of finalization of 5G standard, and then moving on towards the 6G systems to make the 6G systems more dependable, robust, and secure as we move on forwards. And we are also using this kind of test network infrastructure and developing that as part of the research. So that is very essential part of the research to utilize the test networks and do some research and development related to that. So if we look into the timeline aspects, so we see that the industry standardization is moving forward. So the 5G standardization is getting to the next phases of going to those 5G advanced, and at the same time we have started these 6G concept development, 6G requirements, and going towards to 6G requirement specification and so on. So there is this is kind of the expectation where we are going. So by the late end of this decade, we will start having the first 6G specification. So before that, we have time to do some research on this topic. As the first phases of this, we did this kind of white paper focusing on this. So it's part of the 6G flagship white paper series. So you can check this if you are interested to look our kind of early visions of the 6G security. As a short summary, what we identified there in that work, and also reflected to our collaboration project. So we are looking into these aspects of how to prevent, mitigate AI or machine learning based intelligence attacks, for example, poisoning and inference attacks in the AI machine learning models. Also different aspects of the network configuration, safety, and so on, and various aspects how to prepare for new kinds of threats as we move on beyond 5G. So one technology area we have looked into for this kind of distributed trust mechanism is this that are kind of this kind of blockchain or distributed ledger type of technology that has various use cases. It's not solution for every problem, but we can consider utilizing this kind of blockchain type of solutions in different areas. For example, in the current certificate system, we can use blockchain type of certificate revocation technology as one example, and in other areas as well. So basically, in the figure we can see some of the use cases. And the kind of the capabilities of blockchain technology that can be utilized in the also when we consider it used in the kind of this networking context and in 6G. So it's one technology alternative, but of course not the only one. So we are also looking for other solutions as well. Okay, I think this concludes my presentation, and if there are any questions, either me or Dr. Kim could maybe address those.
네, 고맙습니다.
Yes, thank you very much.
대학교 미카 일라이안 딜라 교수님께
So Professor Ilantaya talked about the Korea-Finland joint research project. And to summarize, I think trust network is what they are trying to develop together. So automation and standardization is also an area that they are working on. So again, we have already a question that's been asked. So I believe Professor Yantala will be able to answer. So with the completion of the 5G, 6G security to analyze the threat, building data set, and to do machine learning for them, how do you plan to approach those activities? Well, with the Finland Oulu University, we are conducting the research together. My name is Jong Hyun Kim from ETRI. First of all, let me thank you for that nice question and let me respond to that. Currently, up to now, 6G network environment do not exist. Hence, in our research with Oulu University and with Nokia, they built 5G test network. So based on that, we linked up with agency for data collection. So we use that for data collection, and we plan to use that for building data set. And initial interoperability tests have already been complete. And in going forward, this data set through the global data sharing site, they will be opened up so that various research centers and universities can use them for their own research purpose. Thank you very much. Apologies, he was not able to listen to the interpretation service, but I hope that answered the question. So we'll move on to the last presentation of the day.
스페인의 CT 엔지니어
So Professor Francisco Andres Perez of CT Engineering will talk about Korea-Spain artificial intelligence technology.
Hi, good evening. My name is Francisco Andres. I'm the responsible of artificial intelligence in CT Engineering Group. I will share my our project is yes, I will say next page. Next page, please.
Next page, please. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I will introduce a bit the bilateral project, and I will present some results from the Spanish side. Next. Our project is called Alarat. It means earth in Arabic. It's about small farming. Next. So what we are going to do in the next 3 years is to develop a decision support system to help producers in 2 different sectors. In Spain is wine production. In Korea is smart farming for strawberries. So this consortium is led by KETI in Korea and CT in Spain, and is participated by other partners, universities, and SMEs, and other companies. Next, please. So we share something obviously that is common in both projects. In both projects, we collect data for different sensors, and we collect images. In the Korean part, it's from a robotic camera. In our site, is collected by 2 main sources: satellite and drones. In both sides, we have time series data, so we apply similar statistical mathematical techniques to make predictions and forecasts. And we share also some parts of the architecture in the Internet of Things framework. Think Plus is one of the software developed by a Korean partner that is shared in both projects. Next, please. So this is more or less the Korean project. Seung-woo, my partner here, is if you have any questions about the project. It is a very similar flow, but obviously there are some differences in terms of predictions and models used. Next. Okay, the main purpose of our project is to optimize the practices and optimization of some processes in wine because Spain, especially Spain, but other parts in the world are very affected by the climate change. This means that the springs are warmer than in the past, so they produce more alcoholic wines with more sugar in the grapes. So this is something that it's a very important risk for the future of the sector. So our idea is to support producers in these mitigation actions. Next. So this is more or less the map. You can see how the regions that are suitable for wine, they are displacing, moving towards north in Europe and in America, and even in the south, in South Africa, Chile, and Australia. Next. So there are some different varieties that are more resilient for climate change. One of these is Tempranillo, that is the variety we have chosen. Another reason is that the majority of the production is in Spain. So there is a critical production of Tempranillo for Ribera, that is one of the varieties in Spain. And of course, the water use is something critical because some fields are irrigated during summer mainly. And the production of wine has to do a lot in terms of agronomic relationship with the stress water. Next. So this is more or less the cycle we are doing, and different iterations. Precision agriculture is a mix of different technologies to collect different kind of data. Some of them are from laboratories, some of them are from proximal sensors, some of them are for images from drones or satellites. So we apply different techniques, statistical, big data, and artificial intelligence to produce recommendations mainly and changes in the operations in the field. So this is more or less something that we will have to refine during the next years to produce value, because obviously we will try to support the producers. It's a research project, but we are very market-oriented dimension. Next. So our project in Spain, now we are in the first year of the project. We use images from Sentinel-2, is one of the satellites that is in the constellation of Copernicus in Europe. This satellite use different bandwidth of hyperspectral images. And these hyperspectral images are converted by us to produce different vegetation indices. These vegetation indices produce useful information in terms of clustering. Clustering is more or less try to divide the field in different zones with different practices and different operations. So we will try to extract the characteristics of this zonification. And we are now doing the test bed with the proximal sensors that measure different critical variables, that humidity, solar radiation, oxygen, of course, weather conditions. And the last part of the project is more or less to detect what has to do with the fruit, detection of the grapes, and the vegetation cover, so we can more or less predict the performance of the field and to anticipate different irrigation techniques or even for plagues and diseases. Next. So this is more or less a summary of how we will conceive this decision support system. Of course, the satellite images, they don't have the definition ideal to monitor in a very fine way the monitoring of the field, but this is something that will be very helpful for us to localize which are the critical regions to install the sensors. And these sensors that we are now collecting data when test bed are complementing the information about the different zones in the field. The last part of the project is has to do with image recognition. We will do something that is not common in other projects. That the majority of the projects they do only images from the cover of the vegetation, but we will use miniaturized drones to produce video images to know what is the pollution of the maturation of the grapes and to optimize even the harvest moment. Next. So the main three technical objectives of the project is one of them is to understand the problem. Obviously, wine is a very complex product. We are not trying to produce more and more grapes. We are trying to produce better and better quality wine. So this is another problem, very, very different. This means that, for instance, the water stress is something that could be even good to produce wine, but even this kind of things obviously it produce a risk for the plant. So we have to more or less to move near the water stress to produce better wine, but not empowering the performance of the plants. This is one of the things. So we have to do with weather conditions, obviously with soil, with microclimate, because this region is affected by different humidity and windy conditions. Next. The second part is has to do with all the integration of the data collection from the sensors, the satellites, and the drone in a unique architecture that can compile, that can collect at least not real time, but in a very, very short delay. In a rural area with poor access, also with internet, and collect this data to use models to produce helpful recommendations for the wine production. Next. This is something we will do in the next year. We are now working with the state of the art. Obviously, we will try to develop deep learning methods to identify the grapes, but also identify the status of the grape in terms of maturity, and even to identify some kind of diseases in the leaves. So this is something that we are analyzing now. Next. So this is more or less the first year that we have covered in the project. Next. This is all the list of the activities we have developed this year. It has to do mainly with the needs of the mass of the end user to develop this decision support system. So we have understood better which are the critical factors that are affecting the performance of the field. We will use as well blockchain technologies to trace, to follow some factors in the final product that the consumer can even identify from the region. And we are now in the study of the different techniques of image recognition from the last part of the project. Next. So our main results, and this is something that we will do in very short minute. Next. So this is the variety we focus, because there are the different varieties in the field, but we all focus on Tempranillo because this is a resilient variety for climate change. It's well known in the Spanish state of the art, and it covers more or less most of the production in the region. Next. This is the location of the. We have indeed two fields, two different fields. One is called Paramo, the other is the Balcon. It's in high altitude. It's 900 meters from the level of sea. So it means that now it's possible with the climate change to produce wine in higher altitudes. But of course, there are more problems because of the soil. It's poorer. Has to do more with rock than the moisture that is typical in the wine jars. And this is the challenge. Next. So what we have done in this first project is more or less to collect all the specifications and needs for the end users and to provide a pack solution, more or less, with different technologies. Next. So we have the first thing we did is an analysis of all variables that were collected by the winery in the laboratory to know more or less which are the specific factors that are affecting the wine in terms of origin in the field. This is very complex, but it has to do with biochemical composition on different systems that produce different levels of acidity, alcohol, or so on. Next. The next thing we have done is to collect 3 years of images from spring, because the spring is from March until September is more or less the period in which it is the most critical performing of the film. We use different, obviously, atmospheric corrections and so on. That is typical for satellites. And we use 12 bands in the Sentinel, in the hyperspectral. Next. And with these bands, we have the correlation of these spectral images, hyperspectral, with different vegetation indices. We have collected 11, but of course we will use only a short number because there are correlations between them. Next. I present some, for instance, this is the normalized difference vegetation. This is very common because it is more or less the index that shows the vegetation cover. Okay, so you can see different zones of the two fields in which in these months from March until September there are different factors that will affect indeed the evolution of the vegetation cover. One of these was the weather conditions, and the other one a disease, a specific disease in one of the fields. Next. We use as well the green chlorophyll index. This is a very important because obviously it has to do with the health of the plant, okay, and the environmental stress. So we see here more density of chlorophyll on the cover in some specific regions that are well irrigated, another are not so well irrigated, and this is maybe for the characteristics of the soil or even the practices of the producer. Next. Okay, so more or less the green is, or the photosynthetic, this is the vegetation index we will use, is covered by this because it's associated with the presence of water in the soil. So this is the more refined index we will use to know exactly which is the water status of the soil for the field. Next. Another important thing is the structure intensity pigment index, because it has to do obviously with some diseases and specific diseases, and this will be used in the aftermath of the project to train our deep learning networks how to anticipate some specific diseases in the field. Next. And I think this is the last one. This is more or less with the stress. This is the more important index with the water stress. When the plant is suffering water stress, but is still alive, I would say, the quality of the wine improves a lot. So more or less, the optimum is to be near this water stress, but with no empowering the performance of the vegetation. Next. Okay, this is more or less a correlation of the indices that we have already done, and this is more or less to choose which will be the indices we will try to predict in our models. Next. Okay, what we have done in this study is to identify different regions in which we will set up proximal sensors to monitor better the performance of these regions. They are critical regions with very poor performance in terms of production, with problems with diseases, loss of water, and so on. So this is something that we will focus on this kind of regions. Next. Okay, and we are now, this is the last thing we have done. We are have installed different sensors from provided by a Spanish company, that is Libelion, to monitor different agronomic variables that are critical for wine. One of these solar radiation, soil temperature and soil water, soil oxygen. The endometer is to measure the size of the grape and even the strong part of the plant. And of course, we have a weather station installed in the vineyard to complete this collection of data. Next. So we have installed an internal network with LoRaWAN antennas in the field. So the sensors, they are transmitting, I think, every 15 seconds the data. And we are collecting and visualizing the data to do the time series analysis. This is something we are doing now. Okay. Next. These are some of the observations, but this is only for test bed because we are going now to scale up. The number of nodes we will use is five nodes to cover the monitoring of the two fields. Next. And something we will do in the last part is obviously to try to train convolutional networks from the time series we have from the satellite, okay, to see the performance and the prediction for this year. And we will contrast the real data from the satellites this year with the prediction of the of our networks. Next. This is something that we will do only for the data that are collected from the sensors. So we are now processing the data, the noising, and this kind of things to reconstruct the time series for prediction purpose. Next. And the last part of the project, and this is something that we are in a very, very early stage, is to use image recognition to predict, for instance, the production. To do a forecast, this is something critical for the wine producer. This can be done counting the grapes in each cluster, and then doing inferences for the whole vineyard. And this is something very important because in terms of quantity, it's a good indicator of the quality and even the other kind of things that has to do with wine production. Next. Okay, so we are, this is something that we are now studying. We propose two kind of detectors for image recognition. One of these is the two states. It has the problem that obviously it uses more computational resources, but it has better accuracy with the one stage. And next, the other one, we will, yes, next. So the other one, we will the YOLO, the one stage. They are very improved versions of that. So this is something that we will try to do because of to know what is the balance between the speed inference and the accuracy. So we are now we will do in a control environment some proofs before because we have training data sets, and then we will use the real data sets in the field to do that. And that's my presentation. So thank you very much. If you have any question.
네, 프란시스코 안드레스 페레스 교수.
Yes, Professor. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was on the topic of AI technology joint research between Spain and Korea. Wine producers can benefit from this technology. The technology taps into images and data gained from satellite and sensors, and also uses deep neural network. So the question is, with deep learning, can you also understand other attributes and analyze other attributes like leaves and branches, not just grapes?
I think there is a question or not. I cannot understand if there is any question.
네, 교수님의 사용하고 계시는.
So the professor is not using the translation function on the Zoom platform. So the other researcher in the project will answer the question on behalf of the professor.
예, 안녕하세요. 예.
Yes. I'm from KETI. I am Seung-Woo Kim. Thank you very much for your question. We are harnessing deep learning for agriculture. There are other research as well, but in our project, we are targeting at grapes. And on the Korean side, we are using the technology on strawberries using images and time series analysis. Like you mentioned, different deep learning technologies are being applied, not just object detection for flowers and fruits. We can also understand the structure of the plant, and by different units, we can also understand the growth data of the plant, leaves and branches. That is also possible with image-based time series analysis, deep learning technology. That is being studied, and in the second and the third year, we will continue to research, and we will also expand the scope of our research. Yes, thank you very much for the answer. I think the question was sufficiently answered. And I would like to also thank Professor Francisco Andres Perez for his presentation.
ICT 국제
With this, we will conclude today's conference. Like to again thank our host, Ministry of Science and ICT, and organized by IITP. So thank you very much to all participants for staying with us until the end. I hope that the conference has been of help to everyone. And with that, we will see you at next year's conference. Thank you and good evening.